This is Rats with Team 45-45 League, analyzing the game between Insan 996 and Gondre, played in team event number 53, round 1 of the under 1600 section. Let's have a look. Okay, looks like White's planning to play like a collie system, but Black throws a wrinkle in the armor. Now, I'm going to criticize this strategy, and I'll explain why. White does get the bishop pair with it, and at least he's not playing h3 before the opponent puts a piece on that square. But just going for the bishop pair like this, I think, is just kind of wrong, because even though you do get the bishop pair, it's not all that valuable. And watch what happens. Once White takes, and he doesn't take yet, but once White takes, look at the rest of his army. It's all on the back rank. Black is getting his pieces out, so Black's getting some play for that, for giving up that bishop pair. And White's really got to start over, regroup, and collect his position and get everyone working together. And as it turns out, it does eventually reach a bishop versus knight ending, and that has unexpected results. Okay, so like I say, now he takes it. Now look what Black's getting for his bishop pair. He's got the half-open rook file to play with, and he's got a couple pieces out, and he's ready to get his queen and his knight out, and White's one piece that's developed is pinned. So White really doesn't have anything to show for it. He's got his bishops, but sometimes I think lower-rated players overvalue the bishops, because what's going to happen is that the white pieces don't really have an awful lot of scope in this game, and we'll see here shortly. And if you're going to have the bishops, you need an open position where they can flourish. Okay, so maybe White's going to pick up another bishop here. Okay, bishop a5, b5, and so forth, but Black has a square to tuck it, so White may not be getting that bishop pair. Two bishops versus two knights. And essentially the position's about even, but look at the mobility of the pieces on the board. Okay, the white bishops have no scope whatsoever. Where's the bishop on g2 going? It's got f3, it's got f1, e2, d3. It doesn't have a whole lot of maneuverability. The bishop on d2 only has e1. The white rooks don't really have any open files. The queen's kind of active in the board, but what's it attacking? Nothing. And conversely, what does Black have? The black bishop has no forward squares. They're all covered, right? Whoops. They're all covered. So we just go on and show you the squares. They're covered. And look at the black knights. They don't have much mobility either. e5 is covered, c5 is covered, b4 is covered. Black kind of has a maneuver maybe with knight a5 and knight c4, and Black has this open rook file, but neither side has a lot of mobility here. So to some degree, the knights are preferable in a position like this. So what White needs to do is try and open up some lines. What Black needs to do is try to keep the lines closed. Okay, so Black does what I said he probably shouldn't do, is open up the position, but it's okay. But here Black kind of commits an error. Here his best chance is to just take this knight, and I'll show you why, and then play knight b6. Now the black knights have some potential here. What's White going to do? If White takes here on d5, Black just takes back, and now the knights have some decent squares. And if White trades off his light squared bishop, which suddenly has some mobility, White's left with a kind of a weak bishop. It doesn't have any advanced squares to go to. They're all covered. So Black is doing fine here, but Black unfortunately makes an error, and suddenly White has a nice little continuation here, getting all kinds of material, a couple pawns at least. So Black has some serious problems here, and the game starts souring on him really fast. Knight a5. Now he's finally doing some of the maneuvers I suggested, but the bite of getting into c4 isn't as good as it once was when the position was still locked up. And once again, black commits another error. Maybe he's reluctant to take here with the pawn or to trade queens, but instead black just develops white's rook right into the game, and essentially black is lost right here. And white has been spending his time, but he needed to spend a little bit more time on this move. He needed to play rook takes e6. Let's see, he took with the queen, and he spent a good 2 minutes on it. And I guess I can try to explain the logic of why white did this. White says, let's see, I'm ahead a pawn. I can win a second pawn, and if I trade queens, I'm going to be. Looks like I might be winning another pawn. I'll be forking a couple pawns, and I'll win this ending easily. So that's kind of explains white's choice. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but when you got a guy down, you got to keep him down, because when you have a queen and your queen is more aggressive, you want to keep it because you can do so many wonderful things with it, like win more material. But okay, so rook takes e6 is called for. What's black going to do? White's threatening a nasty discovery in a lot of positions. Any place the queen goes, it's going to get chased, it seems, or white will be picking up pawns with checks. So the only move black has to stop everything is queen d7. Now the rook is not pinned because the queen on g4 is guarded by the pawn on h3. But now the potency of the white position comes into play. What white would like to do but can't do is play bishop c6. If the problem is this knight's in the way, okay? But if white could play bishop c6, that queen's driven off the diagonal. Then you got to do discoveries. So we got to get rid of that knight. Well, how can we do that? Well, what about b4? Doesn't that attack the knight? What's black going to do? Where's he going to put his knight? Where? He can't put it anywhere. He can't put it on c6 because it could just gets taken. That leaves c4 and b7. Pick one. Let's pick b7. Okay, bishop c6. What's black going to do? His queen's attacked. It looks like the only square his queen can move to is f7. Now white's got all these wonderful discoveries at his disposal. Pick one. Rook e7 check. What's wrong with that? Forces queen f5. Okay, right? White would win with that. We could play rook f6 check. Right? What's black going to do? He has to get a check and he loses his queen. So white just has all of these wonderful choices at his disposal, and if he does any of them, black's just hurting for certain. So although taking with the queen should win, it doesn't win as easily. And when you're playing a stronger player, and here we have about a 200 rating point advantage, you don't want to keep giving them chances to recover. And when you don't play the strongest move, that's what you do. You give them chances to start finding good moves, and eventually that's going to be what happens. But objectively, white's winning this. He's 2 pawns ahead. He's forking 2 pawns. Black's probably going to have to play rook d6 here and let white exchange some more, right? So that's what he does. Now, if white wants to exchange more pieces, he can take the rook. We can just double the rook on the file and threaten to trade rooks and stick the rook on, or the rook on e6. So what does white do? He doubles, and this is fine. White's winning this easily. If black plays rook takes d4, white will take on g6, and he's forking 2 more pawns. So black tries a little counterplay. Now, white shouldn't worry too much about pushing that pawn, because what that did was it just shut his bishop in. Okay, logical, just take the rook, okay, and bring the rook up, okay? Now your bishop maintains all of its mobility, and you need your pieces to be active so they can do things. You don't want to shut them in where they can't move. Now, white should just win this very, very easily. Centralize the king, get him up to e3, if e3, maybe g4 is a nice safe point, and start shoving the king side pawns get one up to h5 or f5. You're going to force an exchange and be left with a 2-on-1 pawn majority. All kinds of ways to win this, and you went for the bishop pair at the very beginning of the game, and now that's paid off because you now have the bishop versus knight ending, and the bishop is dominating in this position. So just shutting it in with f3, moves you don't want to make, because again, you shut your pieces in, you reduce your mobility, you just give chances to your opponent. Now, how's that bishop going to get into play? Well, until you take care of f3, it isn't getting into play. White's going to have to slow play this, like rook e4 and f4, and now the bishop still isn't totally in play because the rook's in the way, because the rook's guarding f4. Let's see what happens. Okay, knight c6. Now that can get there. Couldn't get there before, but now it can. So now White's allowed the black knight to get into play. He was stuck on the rim. Knights on the rim are dim. That's an expression. Okay, and now c3. Now this is okay. The white pawn structure on the queen side is fine. Got him on the pawns on the opposite color of the bishop. But now black's just trying to defend. He gets his king centralized. White tries that. And now this is good. Guard the pawn. Offer to trade rooks, which you can't do. Now d5, but at check. Now White's got everything he wants here. I don't think black should have walked into that pin, but that's okay. And I think at this point someone told me that White made a mouse slip. Just rook takes a6 wins clearly. But White's still winning this, but black's getting back in. Now we're only one pawn up instead of two. And the unfortunate thing here is that White plays too quickly at the critical juncture, and it comes right up here. Okay. Now, it's hard to believe White actually lost this, but he did. And here's the critical juncture. And White has 2 minutes on his clock, 1:59, and he only spent 7 or 8 seconds on this move. And it's a move that just about everybody should know, and any player would probably play in an instant because they know it. So if White didn't know it, he's going to know it now. And next time he'll play it in an instant, but White to play and do the best he can. What's the logic? Stop the video. Okay, you've restarted it. The winning move is simply bishop e4. Where does the black knight move to? It doesn't. It can't move anywhere. It's stuck. Okay? You see that? Can't move any place at all. So at the moment that black eventually pushes g6 and gives it a square, White takes it and runs the pawn. And if black tries to bring his king back over here to prevent that option, White's going to get a pass pawn on the other side of the board. And I'll just illustrate this and show you how simple this wins. What does black do? Okay, let's go ahead and play a4. Okay, White plays king c3, and then g6, and White plays king d3. And if black plays king b6, White plays king d4, and c5 is coming, and then another pass pawn. So if black tries king b4, going after this pawn to make this pawn run, well, White gets it a little quicker. Watch. King d4, king b3. Well, now c5. Boom. Now White's ready to queen in 3 moves. Black takes 4 moves to queen. King takes 2, 3, 4. So what's black going to do? Take here? Fine. Okay? Take here. Push. Push. Now, what's White do? Simply puts the bishop on this square. Lets the knight out because the knight can't do anything. Black can't advance the pawn. This pawn queens. How can that knight get in? It can't. That's the only open square. Now you go here, and black has no trick to end up forking like on e6, as often happens in these endings. Black has no trick to save the game. So White had a simple win, forced win with bishop g4. With bishop e4, and instead played bishop g4, which is the losing move. And I'll just run through the last few moves here real quick. The white pawns start falling, and now white's lost the game. And there's just a few more moves, and it really doesn't matter. Anyone can see that white is going to lose. He's now down a pawn. He went from 2 pawns up with a crushing position to this, and finally decided that that's it. White, I hope you learned something from this. Better luck next time. I want to wish everyone good luck in their game too, and thanks all for your time.